Hello everyone and welcome to this video on this course of getting started with Angular. In this part of the video, we'll be going over services, which I believe is a very important concept for anyone who's trying to get started with Angular. If I were to explain it theoretically, the simplest way of understanding a service is that it's a global feature or a global class which can be used by all components inside an Angular application. One of the biggest attributes or the biggest uses of services is when we set up HTTP calls or make HTTP calls from an Angular application to a backend. Those HTTP call or HTTP functions are normally 9 times out of 10 set up inside of a service. If we want to set up observables, something which I'll cover in the later lectures, we need to have a service. If we want to share data between two components, we need to have a service. Right now we are sharing data between the multiple customer.component.ts and the single customer.component.ts over here using input event listener and output event emitter. But the same thing can be done using a service as well. So without further ado, I think it would be better if I could give you guys a practical example. So we have the source app, and inside of the app we have these multiple components. We have a directives folder as well. So I will create a folder and I will call it services. And inside of this services folder, I will create, let's say, data.service.ts. Now I've created a service file, data.service.ts. What I need to do is I first create a class and I will call it data service like this. Make sense? Simple. And I will need to have a constructor for this class. And now that I have defined a class and it has a constructor, I will define my methods inside of it. Getting data, posting data, something that we'll look into when we get to the HTTP, but right now we need to find our functions inside of it. But before defining our functions, we need to see how our current application is working. So currently the way our application works is we have this add customer button. Whenever we click on it, we see this these objects, 0, Mohit, and some arbitrary number, and they keep on increasing as we click on this add customer button. So the concept is pretty straightforward. If you go into this multiple customers.component.html, we have this button over here at the top, add new customer, which when clicked, whenever this button is clicked, this .customer.array, this array over here, an element is pushed to it. And when an element obviously pushed to it and you go to the customer.component.html over here, we have an ng-for which loops over those customers array, and that whole thing is outputted using the app-customer component, and we pass all the data to it using an input event listener. So we are using the input, output, event listener, event emitters to share data over here, but this can be done using a service as well. So let's see how we can do it. The first thing I would like to do is that I have this customer array defined only in the multiple customer.component.ts, and I would like to possibly have it at a global level. What I mean by global level is that it should not just be confined to the multiple customers.component.html. It can be accessed by other components as well. Let's see how we can do that. So I'll come inside of my this class over here, and I will define customers array any, and I will define a method, a function, which will be add customer like this, which will take a customer object. We can make it any, I'm making any for now, you can make it anything you want. And what it will do is it will do this dot customer array dot push, and it will push the customer object to it. Very similar to what we did in the multiple customer.component.html. So we have defined this very basic method over here. Now, before I can use this, what I need to do is this: I need to tell Angular that this is a service, and I need to tell Angular that you have to provide this service. Provide. Note the emphasis on the word provide. And if I go to my app.module.ts, I see this providers array over here. I need to add the data service component to it. So what did I just do? To give you, to summarize what I just did, provider is a way of Angular, is a way in which Angular tells all the components that this particular class over here, this data service class, it has a global horizon, it is something that is global, and it wherever it is being used, like for example, this class is being used in customers.component, the multiple customer.component.html.ts file. Something happens to the customers array, something gets added to it, an element is added to it. If an element is being added to the customers array, it should be picked up by all other components which are using this customers array and which are using this service over here. So let me give you guys an example of what I mean. I go to my customers.component.ts, and the first thing I will do is I need to use this service. So the way to use service is that we need to define it inside of the constructor of that component. You have to give it a name, data service, and it will be the type data service, which will be imported from the service file. Now once that is done, right now, let me just comment this out. I don't need this. What I'll do is I will do this dot. Now look at this. I am accessing the service. I'm accessing the add customer function, and I'll tell Angular that you have to push this element to the data service.add customer function, which will in turn add to the customer array. Now what it will do is that it will add this object to, if I go to data.service.ts, to this customers array. Now that is done. Obviously that is something that we have done. Now how can I possibly tweak the now that we have added it, I would like to make a bit of a change. I don't want to loop over the customer array anymore. What I want to do it is that the app-customer, it should not use the input, output, event, listener, emitter, anything of that sort. In fact, it should directly use the service, and show all the list of customers. Let me just comment this out. It's going to be a bit tricky, but just bear with me for a second. So I've defined my app-customer. Let me just go inside of it. I obviously have a lot of input, output, event listeners, event emitters, everything is set up. We'll be making a few changes over here, but what I want to do is, now I want to use the data service over here. So first I need to define it. Private data service, data type of data service. Now what I need to do is that inside of the constructor, do I need to use the constructor, or I can use the ng-on-init method as well? What I will do is I could just do customers array, define an element like this, and it can be any, and inside of ng-on-init what I can do is I will do this dot customers array is equal to this dot data service dot customers array. So I am defining a customer array inside of ng-on-init, and it will equal to this dot data service dot customer array. Now what am I doing? Let me just give you guys an example. It won't take long. I have this information over here. What I do is I define a div, and I do star ng for is equal to let customer of customers array over here, like this. Listen click customer.id, customer.name, customer.age. I think that I should have all of this information already present. Now let me save this. So to summarize what I am doing, whenever the user clicks on the add customer button, this function will be called. This function will call the add customer function of the data service and provide it an argument which will be an object. The object will have ID, name, age as the variables. And the add customer function is doing nothing but pushing an object to this customer's array. Now if I go to the single customer.component.txt, which is another component, I am accessing that array and defining it to this dot customer array. Now let's see if this works or not. That's the first thing. Okay, for some reason it's not working. Let's see what's broken. Okay, I think I made a mistake. Because ng-on-init is only called once. If someone keeps on adding customers to the customer array, they won't be picked up. We need to possibly notify the single customer component that objects are being added to the main customers array. But how do we do that? Okay, what I can do inside of my service is that I can define add output and call it customer added, which will be a new event emitter like this. Yep. And whenever a customer is added, I want to send a signal using the output event emitter dot emit customer added. Now we are still using the output event emitter, but it's going to be a bit different. So that this dot customer dot added dot emit will emit this event dot customer added. But now we need to listen to it as well, and we can listen to it inside of the customer dot component of ts. And the way we will listen to it is what we'll do is this dot data service dot customer added dot subscribe. I haven't gone over subscribe yet because I have not covered the topic of observables, but for now I think it would be better if you guys just get an understanding of what it is. This should possibly do the job, and I'm getting an error. Class using an angular feature but not decorated. Please add an explicit angular decorator. Okay, possibly over here. So it is not decorated. Please add an X. If you can do add injectable. Yep. I had to add injectable because this data service is injectable. I'll get to injectable in a minute. Let's see what happens. Okay, nothing is happening. Let's see. Okay, let's try to debug this. The best way to resolve this is to debug this. First, we have to see if we are even getting a signal or not. So yes, let's see what we get. So let's see if we are getting anything in the console. Console over here. Okay, I think I got an error. Customers.component.ts. Okay, this is where the issue is. It's not even adding anything to it. This dot data service dot add customer. But why is it not adding it? Let's see. Reading push. Okay, I think I know the issue now. Cannot use an any over here. That is why. We cannot use an any for an array. If you're going to be using an any and it's an array, we have to define it like this. My bad. Let's see if this, first of all, we have to see if this resolves the problem. Still does not resolve the problem. Okay. We are definitely pushing to it. And was it saying? Type never. Okay. And is it a customer object? Yep, well, it is an object, array inside an object. Oops, that didn't solve it as well. Let's see what is the problem. So a few careless mistakes from my end. I will go over them. First of all, I did not have my h1 tag inside of this div over here, which is looping over the customers array, and that's why I could not see anything. That's the first thing. And the other thing is, yeah, that's pretty much it. That is the main thing. That is what was causing the issue. And so now what I want to do is, I am obviously listening to subscribe. What I want to do is, I want to see if I can access the object directly, customers array, and let's just comment the subscribe out, and let's see what we get. Yep, it's working now. It is working. Yep, it is. Okay, I'm going to give you guys a brief recap, a brief overview of everything that we have done so far. We have a customers.component.html over here. First, what we were doing is that we were looping inside of the main customers.component.html, and we were transmitting data using the input output event emitters, output event emitter, input event listener. But now what we have done is that we have defined a single service, which is a data service.ts, which has only one function, add customer. It just adds a customer object to the customers array and then emits the customer array, but we don't need, to be honest, we don't need this output event emitter. So I might as well just remove it. So in short, this function add customer adds a customer object to the main customers array. That is what it does. And then what I do in my single customer.component.ts, I access this this dot customers array using the data service over here, this dot data service dot customers array. And every time that the customer array changes, this dot customer array will change as well, because everything is happening on the fly. So because this change happens, we then obviously inside of the div, we are doing an ng forward let customers array. We have an h1 tag inside of it, and then we see everything that we are seeing. So yeah, this was my basic level introduction to services. I do apologize if I got stuck somewhere myself, but I wanted to give you guys that real developer experience. Trust me, no one remembers anything right off the top of their heads. Everyone looks Google up, and it's completely fine if you get stuck. That's completely okay. But the main thing is that if you guys get the concept across, if you guys understand the concept, that's the most important thing. And the other thing is, this is not the main application or the main use of services. When we get to the HTTP section, will you guys realize that services have a much bigger role to play than what we have seen over here. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, feel free to share it, give it a like, share it with your friends and family, for that helps me out a lot. And till we meet again in the next video, this is Mohit Lodhi signing off.